Welcome to episode 2 of the Extracted podcast. My name is Shannon, and I am here to interview the one and only amazing Jared Iwi, coming to you from the Bang Bang Bunker.
It is the Bang Bang Bunker. And not to take that in a wrong way, it's the Bang Bang Bunker because this is where our dog hides when there's bang bangs.
That's right.
Fireworks and guns and whatever else. So, but it could, I could easily be taken as something else. But no, it's comfort. It's a comfortable place. It's a comforting place. And your intro was really good.
Hey, thanks.
For me. And I don't think I gave you that kind of intro.
You know, it's not about that. It's just what I'm feeling in my heart at the moment.
Yeah.
But I do want to say that as we've been talking about the purpose of what we really want this podcast to be about is when people are really going through the shits of life and everything's so painful, being able to still make people laugh a little bit through their tears.
Yeah,
you know?
well,
because we've both been through life's poop chute, so to speak. And here we are on the other side.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is relatable, but I just set my mouth on fire with some food I pulled directly out of the oven. I'm almost 50, and I'm still doing that, burning my face out of a thing I just pulled out of a 400-degree oven. Like, there should be some cognizant connection, but no.
Well, that you were hungry.
That was hungry, and I'm still kind of reeling from it, like the adrenaline, the fear. I didn't know what to do with it. I was trying to be like, noble is not the right word, but just less gross than, spitting it everywhere. I got it down, but I'm just dealing right now.
Well, as long as we can continue this dialogue and interview, and you are good to go.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the other piece, is that Jared and I met in college back in 1992. We had the exact same birthday of 7/7/74. And this man is my comedic mentor and inspiration. And we're going to get into you today and the poop shoot of life that you've had up until today, because this is why we're talking. And, tell me a little bit more, because I just know that you're from, Walden, Colorado, and Gould, and, your dad was a logger, but take me back to like young Jared.
Well, you know how last week we did a year, and I was thinking 1982, 1983. These are years that if you just cut them out and look at them, it's Smithsonian grade rural living. And my dad was this like kind of hippie redneck, you couldn't put a label on him. You would see him and expect him to have like a Trump sticker on his truck, but you got to know him and you realize he was the exact opposite. And as a logger, he also tried to be an environmentalist. So a lot of things that people would call contradictions, when in fact that's just how you have to live. I mean, you have to feed your family, but you also need to support your community. And if you can, be a good steward of your planet. And he was just trying to do all that at once and make a living, which was hard. And those 2 years, and you can just jump in whenever because I'll go.
I mean, I'm hearing it. Those 2 years.
Well, it's just a magical time because it was a hard time. I cannot imagine being my mom, especially, or my dad. My dad was very volatile at this time. This was a lot of drinking. There was one business in Gould, and it's still there, the cookhouse. And my name is carved in the back bathroom. That's a whole other story. I was bored. My dad was there all the time. I was there all the time. The bus would drop us off essentially at the bar. And I just started working there when I was 8.
Wow.
Just washing bar glasses. As a matter of fact, I was served my first beer when I was 5. We lived in the Gould house, the original Gould house in Gould, Colorado. It had no running water, and it was heated by we had 2 stoves in there, a cook stove and a regular fireplace. And you would run through this 800-acre meadow, and you'd come out on Highway 14, and there was the cookhouse. And the guy who owned it at the time, Tim Lucas, was out there raking. And I was 5, and I ran down the hill, and I was like, Tim, get me a beer. And then next thing you know, I'm at the bar with this beer, and like, oh, crepes. And I drank a little bit of it, and I got flush, I kind of didn't feel great. But I took it to the bathroom with me and poured some of it in the sink, and then came out like I consumed it. Tim had to know, but at the time, I was like, man, I'm smooth.
You are.
Yeah, no. I was like... I felt like I didn't know it at the time. I was innovating like anti-rape measures, by pouring the beer out when nobody was looking. But this time is in retrospect, it's so fantastic, especially if you avoid the 10 months of winter, which were brutal in that meadow.
Oh, so cold.
We would get snowdrifts on the buck fence around our house that were 12, 14 feet high. And we were right at the base of Gould Mountain there, which was about 9,200 feet. In the cold, that year, 1983, I got a certificate for going to school when it was 46 below zero.
Oh, my God.
And, yeah, it's funny. I joke now that it might have been a way to tag the dumb kids because, like, really, what were you thinking? You know, it's 25 miles away. We still went to school. And it's interesting because in 1982, we were in the Gould house where we get our drinking water from the cookhouse. We fill up jugs at the cookhouse. And then there was a KOA campground where we would go and shower. And we would kind of work for the KOA in exchange for showers and stuff. And then, though, there was this part that's going to take me to this story. There's this guy. We always had people that kind of breezed through. As a matter of fact, the front page of the Jackson County Star that serves the Gould area is a story about a guy named Braun Austin Deal, who, just like so many people who lived up there at some point or another, were a bit of a con artist. They were hiding.
He sounds like an oil tycoon, or Braun Austin Deal.
Yeah, his initials are bad, which should tell you
right there. Yeah,
he is just getting. He just agreed to a plea deal to serve some time and stuff because he ripped off a bunch of people.
That guy. That's the guy.
That's the guy. So I went up there and did
the
comedy
fundraiser. Yeah.
Because he got in over his head, and then as the town treasurer, he wrote all the checks to himself. So that happened a lot. It was a small town. Nobody's keeping track of you. And in 1982, there was this guy that moved up there named D.Y. or Don Young. And he moved into this, it was like the nice house in the community along Highway 14. And it was nothing special, but he made it special. And we didn't know where he made his money. He just showed up. He really didn't work. He wore flip-flops. He had this kind of like real tropical Tommy Bahama appeal going on.
D.Y.
Yeah, exactly. And he had a gravity chair in his room, like gravity boots and a swing, which might have been a sex swing.
I was going to say.
Kids played on it. I know. Any swing is a sex swing. You have sex in it. And he had a TV with a remote control. Even though it's still attached to the TV, he could be like up to 10 feet away and change the channel.
Yeah.
And this guy was really cool because we would, every Sunday in the summer, we would play volleyball there. And it was so magical mountainous because there was a bear that would come to the edge of the woods and watch us play volleyball.
Wow.
He loved it.
Because you were going to be future snacks?
Right, exactly. Yeah, he's sizing us up. He's like, that husky kid looks slow. And we were just a poor ass family. It's just such a poor ass family. And we'd go there on Sunday to play volleyball, and we'd also take showers at his place too. And in his bedroom, like he'd be changing clothes in his bedroom, and he had a frame poster above his bed that said, "To our snowman." And it was autographed by like some of the biggest celebrities you would have known at the time. And I didn't know what that meant, but it was a Coke dealer.
Of course, now I get it.
So this is where it gets cool, at least for me, except there is some regret. When we were there one time, I was picking on my brother, and he was chasing me. And my brother's 5 years older, and I really didn't stand a chance. But I had one move, was I could run ahead of him and then fall down, and he would trip over me. And if that didn't kill him, I was screwed, because he would just get up, brush himself off, and pummel me. Well, he was chasing me through the woods, and I see a plastic bag sticking out of the ground.
Oh.
And I was a kid. I was always wandering around the woods by myself. There was this old boy up there named Jerry Hampton, and he told me I could find Indian arrowheads if I looked hard enough. Mm-hmm. So I had coffee can after coffee can of flint chips that I thought were from arrowheads. I don't know what they were from, but I would dig through mole holes and stuff. I mean, I can't imagine some like couple hiking through the woods. They'd find a 5-year-old or an 8-year-old, and I was just like covered in mud looking for these flint chips.
Sounds like a little boy to me, but
oh my god, it was just, and that's the thing, such a magical time to be a kid.
Yeah,
I mean, there was like there was a lot of darkness. You know, there was a lot of domestic abuse, not just at our house, but everywhere.
Yeah,
a lot of drugs and alcoholism. But for me, I'd kick open that front screen door on this 100-year-old house, and I was free. I could go wherever. You know, I'd run into bears. I'd run into coyotes. I mean, we had a dog. He got his foot caught in a bear trap for 3 days, and we could hear him howling. We couldn't find him.
Oh my God!
I mean, that haunts me still.
Talk about that would mess me up. Okay.
And you don't know rednecks until you're in Fort Collins. And my dad had a 1942 6x6 truck from World War II.
Wow.
And he'd have a load of poles on it. And that dog, Max, who got in the bear trap, would lie on top of the poles. And people would yell at us and stuff because this dog was on the poles. But that's where he wanted to be.
Yeah.
And we had to slow down at the tunnel in the Pooter Canyon so we didn't freaking lose our dog. Like, this is the most banjo-playing, toothpicking, please take a bath family you've ever seen. And my mom is from suburban Chicago.
It doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. You know, I mean, she just happened to get knocked up from this guy she met. And back in those days, you got married, you know. So
before I ask one question, I want to go back. So your brother's chasing you, and you run up on a plastic bag in the woods.
Exactly. And I thank you for taking me back there.
Well, I was like hanging on the cliffhanger of the story.
I swear I was.
My fingers are slipping.
And this is good. This is your job. And it's a lot to herd this.
I love this. Bring it on.
He's chasing me, and there's this plastic bag sticking out of the ground. And at the time, plastic in these woods, that's unheard of. Right,
yeah.
Right now,
Yeah.
you go up there, you find a goddamn graduation Mylar balloon, and you know, up there, goddamn balloons. But anyway, I see this plastic, and it's so alien to me. But I grab it, and it pulls me to the ground.
It's that heavy.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's just a bread sack that will just rip right out of, it's just like rotted plastic in the dirt. And so my brother, he's like, oh, well, too bad. I'm going to kick your ass now. I've caught you. I was like, no. What?
Like, look at
hell?
this.
What is this? So we start pulling on it, and we have to dig. And then it comes out.
Oh.
And it's a Tupperware in a plastic bag.
Oh.
And we pull it out. I mean, I'm always looking for treasure.
Yeah.
What kid isn't looking for treasure?
Right.
I mean, you see Goonies, it just jacks you up for the rest of your life.
Same.
Yeah. So I pull it out and I open it up, and it's full of 100s, 50s, and 20s and gold. I swear to God. And money starts blowing everywhere. Now, my brother got in trouble for everything, even if it wasn't his fault. So he's scared to death. He doesn't know is it God? Is it our dad? Almost the same in our heads at the time. He's going to get his ass kicked. So he's yelling at me to get this money. And this is the biggest mistake in my life. And my dad would highlight just how big of a mistake that is. But we're trying to gather this money, and I can't wait to tell people. So I run down the hill, and I burst into Don Young's house with all of these adults there, getting their drink and whatever else on. Yeah, DUI. And I scream, I found a treasure. And immediately his face goes flush.
Of course.
And he realizes what's happened. His tax-free retirement, which was buried in the woods, has been discovered, which is weird. Like, put it on, I don't know, put it in your basement. Like, who's coming for you? And little did he know, it was an 8-year-old. And so all these adults, all these poor ass redneck, go hang out at the new guy's place because he has food and drinks, go up the hill, and money's blowing around everywhere. Everybody's grabbing it and making fun of DUI.
Gosh.
The adults fully know that this is, he's made a living. And this is his money. My brother's panicked. He's got 100s and 20s as much as he can that he's grabbed. There's probably still money blowing around up there, and trying to put it back in the Tupperware. And my dad isn't mad. He's just everybody's in awe.
Yeah, I mean, like, who would have thought that this would be in the ground up there this whole time?
So, time goes on. He takes that box. And they start drinking again and stuff, and everybody's just making so much fun of him. I don't know if he had to pay the adults off to shut up or what. So my brother and I go back up there. There's another box.
Oh.
And it's underneath.
You found a second one?
Yeah, and we couldn't get it out because the adults came and checked on us. But we found it, and we went back to get it, and he'd taken
gone.
it. But that night, and I mean, I can't imagine how poor we were at that time. I mean, an example is that, here we are in a house where we're eating fish, trout, all the goddamn time, and elk. As a matter of fact, you can see this scar on my middle finger there.
Uh-huh.
And that is, I would chop kindling, and, you're holding the piece of wood and then chop, chop, chop. And, my dad had scared the shit out of me about not hurting myself. But in 1980,
ooh,
he got a spike elk, and I remember being so excited because it would take some of the stress off my family about food. And I fucking cut my goddamn finger. I chopped it, and it's still there. A little reminder of the importance of food.
But people pay a lot of money to eat Rocky Mountain trout and elk in restaurants. So boom, you had a culinary feast of a wealthy feast.
No, we were Epicurean, and I did not even know that. We had this regular charcuterie of Rocky Mountain delectables, and I remember it was about that time when my dad came home, and the phone company called to disconnect the phone, and he went absolutely batshit and smashed the phone. Just smashed the phone. Just went nuts. We were all hiding outside. So I know money was such a big deal. And my dad that night, we get home from DY's, all freshly showered after a week of none, and he's pretty lit. And my mom says goodnight. My dad rarely, he didn't do that part. And he comes in, though, and he just looks at me, and he says, the next time you find a fucking box of money in the fucking woods, put it in the fucking glove box and don't say a fucking thing. And I can't. I look back then, and it's so dumb, and you can equate it to adult life, too. How many times did you just pop off when you didn't need to? And God damn it, 8-year-old Jared.
Jared was a little innocent boy who was so excited because he did find a treasure.
I found treasure.
You didn't know how horrible life was and that it was really a drug dealer's retirement fund buried in the ground. And it's I love you more that you found that twice. But you know what? I think that if anything, that your dad's going to see you do exactly that. And, you're just need to forgive yourself on that.
Well, I do. It's just one of those things oh my God, I actually did it. Every kid wants to find treasure. Every kid is digging in the backyard waiting for a clunk.
Sure.
And so it's funny about DY, he would move the boxes and eventually move. After he moved, my brother and I rode bikes down to his place a few miles away on the road along Highway 14, got down there, and we dug around, and all we found was a bag of chemistry stuff. And so we took it to the local doctor, and he's like, this is a drug quality testing kit. Yeah, and it was just thrown under one of the cabins there.
He must have been making it there too.
Yeah.
Or cutting it with something.
So that was in 82, and I graduated 10 years later.
Yep.
And out of the blue, he wrote me a letter. And this is one of those things.
DY.
Yeah. He wrote me a letter, and he said, Jared, I always kind of was, I liked you as a kid. And I'm working as a chef on Jimmy Buffett's boat in the Virgin Islands.
This is the guy.
Yeah. If you ever want to come down and work with us, you should. Now, I didn't, because at the time I was 17. I was getting laid more than I ever thought possible. There's a whole nother story there. I can't wait to share. And I was working with the state parks for $5 an hour, $4.75 an hour, with all these dudes I had admired throughout high school. It was everything.
Yeah, your life is everything.
And I'm there was a while there I kind of was like, dude, why? I didn't even write him back. My God, stay in touch, right? But I think a 17-year-old Jared working on Jimmy Buffett's boat would not be one that lived very long.
Or gone to college, like you did.
Right. Yeah,
and
no,
where you are.
Maybe I would have become a tambourine player in his band, and write some quirky song, that would, instead of cheeseburgers in paradise, it'd be something else he wanted to pick up. I don't know.
Right.
Rednecks in paradise, I don't know, but the redneck sun deck. I'm thinking.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So anyway, that was the end of DY there.
DY. Now, one of the things I love the most about you is your wealth of words and your vocabulary and the way that you phrase things and use words. And where does that come from? Is that on your mom's side, coming from Chicago?
Yeah, I think she was good that way. She went back to school when I was in middle school, and that was wild. That was a lot. She was going to UNC in Greeley, which is 3 hours away. And she would stay all week.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then my brother was kind of, by that time he was done with high school, and he would eventually join the Navy, and I wouldn't see him for years. So my sister and I were pretty much alone. And she would come back on the weekend with groceries and stuff, and it was good to see her. So she really was leaned towards education, and her mom was adamant. She was so hoped that some of these stinky redneck kids would one day join a country club, have a job, maybe a lease on a Cadillac, It didn't all come to fruition, but I just have a word mind. It's almost kind of a thing. I mean, my family makes fun of me because I love words. It's not. I thought maybe I had dyslexia when I was a little bit older because I got hired to read news and I struggled to read it out loud, which actually got me a better job because they just made me the morning show sidekick. They're like, well, if you're just going to be funny and you can't read, let's do this. I remember the owner of the radio station showed up at 5:40 in the morning after my first newscast, and his eyes are red. And he's like hungover. He's like, "What am I even doing with you?" And I was like, "Oh God!" I was 21. I was like, "I don't know. I just, But it's interesting. When I see a word, I see all the combinations of what that word could be.
Now, see, that's funny because I am dyslexic and I'm left-handed, and words will, like when I'm reading, I have to really make sure, is that the word I'm seeing, or is that, a different way to spell it?
That's interesting. And I think it's not so much a disability. I think it has been a gift, but it does sometimes throw me off.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like there's this giddy part of me to see how many words it could be. And it's worked. I mean, I won the spelling bee when I was in 6th grade. Because, I beat an 8th grader, because I could just see the word. And ever since, I've just stoked about words.
So, because I have a photographic memory, and you said you just see the word. Is that kind of how you would explain yours?
Yeah,
because you're like me with like dates and like recall. Yeah. And
I don't know. I do have a good memory for. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I've never really been kind of pin it down.
But like even back in college, because I was thinking about it, and maybe you don't remember because you were hungover, but you used to pick me up for summer school in the morning.
I remember.
And drive me up to campus, and we would go to creative writing. Mm-hmm. But the semester before that, we were in a class together. It was a literature class with Paul Pavich, who was like one of the esteemed professors on campus.
Yeah.
And you had him doubled over laughing every day, all day long, with the words that you were saying. And he was like a... what do you call somebody that just is like full of words?
A PhD and whatever the hell he was.
Well, but my point was, even in college, you were cracking up PhD, very astute, educated people.
Mm-hmm. I did like college.
You got gifts.
Well, and you do too. I didn't.
We're not talking about me.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying you do too. I didn't even know you're left-handed. Left-handed people, I think, are just better people.
Left-handed people are in their right mind.
That's true.
I mean,
so does that mean you're more organized and your right brain is more academic, right?
I don't know, and I think with
it's right.
I think it's totally backwards.
Okay,
but back to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were in the years of 1982, 83.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know if we have time, but yeah, that was 82, and it just is such a magic country living time.
For sure.
Constant danger, but it was fun. I would run around. I had this bow and arrow that I had gotten, and I would shoot it as far and high as I could into the meadow, and then I'd have to go find the arrow amongst all these giant blades of hay. So I developed this new system where I found a huge ball of twine in this old guy's shop, and he didn't want it. So I tied the twine to the arrow, and then I could shoot the arrow and then just reel it back in.
Wow.
But this is how rednecks die, is because I shot it one time, and it just wrapped itself around a power line.
Oh.
And I just dropped stuff.
Good.
And it didn't, for whatever reason, there was no electricity, and I didn't get grounded, but...
Wow.
Just there's all these little moments like that really encapsulate how I got to live.
But I think that all of the way that you grew up and like being this little MacGyver of the woods, pre-cell phone, pre-TikTok, all of that, it's like those skills I think have made you an amazing dad and friend and husband and son and all those things, because like you're really good at staying calm and funny, and then like dealing with the fire or fixing the thing or whatever it is. Like you're a good troubleshooter.
Yeah, I think and credit to my dad there, like a lot of times he would be like, this needs to get done before I get home, figure it out. And so my brother and I set in both of us. I mean, brother and sister, I think, are both on medication. My brother especially, like he's the one, he was in the Navy for 22 years, and he was in all the Iraq conflicts. He was launching tomahawks off the USS Wisconsin. Like he's seen that, he's been there. And when he started taking medication for PTSD, I was like, oh, goddamn, it was you've done a lot of combat related stuff. He's like, no. He goes, that's not why.
Dad.
It's our childhood.
Yeah.
And you too, yeah. Which was really good for him to say. And he's not typically like that, and that, he would get personal or emotional about things. But he just wanted me to know that it was okay to recognize that.
Wow.
Because I told him, I'm like, I'm not so stolen valor guy. Like, but I just bring that up because that kind of thing made us very inventive, but it was out of fear. Like, we were
sure
figure it out. Like,
sure.
And so I think that's helped. It helps you stay calm, but it just depends on the situation. Anything can make me really nervous. And I realize it's so funny. I hate fireworks. I think, oh my God, can we please evolve? And I hate going to fireworks shows. And I'm like, well, no kidding.
Yeah. It's
a lot of banging, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or hearing people like yelling and
right.
commotion.
No, I just,
I get like, and
right.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Like I would decide that's why you deal with your mentals.
Yeah.
And you can't, because at this age, there's a lot of things I've kind of screwed up because I didn't realize why I was so wired and kind of irrational. And it's because I just kind of been put into a panic state. As simple as being in 2004, MoveOn.org did this contest, Bush in 30 Seconds.
That's right.
And it was, do you remember that?
I do.
And so I did this video lampooning George W. Bush for his 2004 re-election, and I won. And I was actually on the air at Alice 1059, right. And I was rehearsing this 30-second video while we were playing Avril Lavigne, and in between live breaks, I was rehearsing this video, and I shot this video. They really liked it, but then it got more votes than a lot of other videos, and so they said I won. And then their legal department, this all took place while I was filling in afternoons at Alice 1059, which I thought that was going to be my future.
Yeah,
they just never fucking hired me. Listeners would call and say, "Oh my God, we love you," but I just didn't have the bravado. I didn't know yet what it really took, not just on the air but beyond, to make people feel comfortable about your existence. But you're comfortable about your existence and being, just an unabashed asshole so that you might succeed in commercial radio. And not that those people are, but you just need that edge. Yeah. And I didn't have that edge. But while I'm on the air at 1059, legal department gets hold of me. Like, we can't use it. There's some words in here that make it, we're a nonprofit, this and that. And it's so funny. Like, it was one of those, I can fix this. I believe I can fix anything. Like, my dad's coming home soon. I can fix it. Yeah. And I convinced them that it was fine.
Wow.
And I went to New York and stole the microphone from Al Franken and did a speech and scared the shit out of security. Yeah. I mean, it was Julia Stiles. She was backstage and she's like, "Oh my God, that was amazing." She goes, "I've never seen security panic so much. Once you get that microphone, they're like, what is it going to do?" And all I did was like, I don't know. I just told some jokes.
Okay. You have to promise that you'll attach the video to the end of this episode, and even if you have the Al Franken video.
Yeah, I think it's there.
Okay.
It's somebody got a DVD of it.
Okay.
They actually sold DVDs that included that. And a friend of mine who actually died recently, he's the one that he called me. He said, "I'm listening to this punk CD and you're on it." I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, you're talking in this thing." And it's just some punk compilation that they took. Somebody took that audio from that event.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't even know what the CD is.
I didn't know
but then he found the DVD.
That's and that he knew it was you.
That's wild.
And I'm sorry he passed.
Yeah, it sucked. I know we're at that age. I've had a lot of friends die recently.
Yeah, it's starting to happen more. But, I mean, even in college, freshman year, you were no stranger to that either.
No.
Do you feel like talking about that?
It's interesting you bring it up. Hold on here.
Oh
God, that's me kind of naked. Sorry.
Naked pictures of Jared.
Let's see. There's me doing nitrous. So this picture here, this is the only picture I have of my roommate my freshman year.
Wow.
Taking a piss. Jason Anderson killed himself.
Wow.
Why, you might ask? Because he was trying to come out of the closet, and it just wasn't a good time. Sorry about that one there.
No, I didn't even.
Yeah, that's okay. I was just trying to be funny.
I didn't even look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway. Don't just breeze over that. So this was...
Yeah, do you want me to hit it? Do you want me to talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, ask some questions.
Okay, so I remember, like I said, when I met you in 92, you were with some guys like Matt Tibbles, Jason, and Jason was a gentle, quiet, lovely, nice boy from Colorado Springs.
Right.
And that's all I knew. But we'd hang out, and he was always really nice.
Yeah, it was the first time in my life where, and I'd never had a roommate situation. You know, you put in a little box in an all-male dorm, so much testosterone running amok. I'd never had somebody not like me that I knew of, and we were friends, but then he was straight-laced. Like, I had lived in the dorm 3 weeks before he got there because I was on the football team, and it was a mess. And one day I walked into the room, and there was this beautiful middle-aged couple, his parents, who owned the Lazy Boy Galleries in Colorado Springs, and him, and he'd taken all my stuff, and they moved it gently on one side of the room, and he had a green and white pinstriped comforter with a green and white pinstripe pillow. He had a 10-key math machine, and this, in the 90s, there was these lights that everybody had. They like had a green piece of tinted glass with a halogen bulb in the middle, and he had that next to his 10-key because we didn't have computers, and he had his accounting books because he was a big math whiz, and he was sitting on the bunk bed, and he's like, "Oh, hi, I'm Jason. I'm your roommate." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I didn't even know you guys were coming today. I'm so sorry." Like, underwear and whatever else was everywhere, and you know, we were tight, just as roommates. But then, as the year went on, and he drank more, and I think he just discovered more. I was not somebody he hated necessarily. Well, as he became kind of careless because he was doing so many drugs and alcohol, and at the same time, I mean, people. I'll get back to that, but at the same time, this legislation was going to pass that passed in Colorado. They called Colorado the hate state in 1992 because this legislation passed that was going to remove gays and lesbians, not necessarily as a protected class, but they weren't going to be protected to honor marriage, et cetera, et cetera. And so it just called him out in this really delicate time in his life. And it's funny, he had approached what was at the time called the GLBT, the gay and lesbian bisexual.
Was it like Alliance on campus or something?
Yeah. So there's more letters now, but the phone would ring, and there's no answering machine or anything. It was just a phone on the wall, and I would answer it, and there was this kid named Andy, who was a part of it, and he's like, "I'm calling for Jason. He reached out for more information," and I was like, "I'll tell him." And the more that I tried to breach that or broach the comment, breach or broach. You said I was good with words, and I don't know.
Right. Well,
but the more I tried to bring that up with him, the more there was conflict. And I was really young. I mean, I just turned 18.
Right.
You're
away for the first time.
Yeah. It's like, I think, these guys really want to talk to you. You should talk to them. I grew up in a town where, according to them, no one was gay. But it turns out, I think of my class of 24, 5 people have come out because they finally feel comfortable. Can't imagine how long they were trapped in that cell, that, societally constructed cell. And he was trying to, but he was, from a very conservative family in Colorado Springs.
He was conflicted.
And it kind of all came to a head as he took my car. And I think he was trying to get drugs somewhere, and I don't know where. And he brought it back, and there was no gas. Well, I really didn't have much money. I was working in radio, which explains why I didn't have much money. And I was like, you just got to put gas in it. I don't care if you took it. That's fine. But where the fuck did you go? A, you were gone 2 days, and B, just put gas in it. And then shit kind of went sideways. And so I was like, I have this new friend. The school year was about to come to an end. I'm like, tonight, I'm going to just get this apartment. And then, sorry. That's like a time thing on the show. When the bell rings, you have 1 minute to finish your emotional story.
You can't finish this in a minute.
I moved in with my buddy Hiroshi at Whispering Pines.
Yes.
Yeah. And the next day, I get a call, and it said call right away. So I called, and it was one of his other friends. And no, shit. This is the part. Totally skipped a part. So he called me and said, tomorrow, can you come by and let's go for a hike?
Okay.
What I didn't know is that he wanted me to be the one to discover his body. So before I could get by there to go for a hike, his buddy went in the room to see how he was doing. And he'd hung himself with a speaker wire from my bed. So, and you talk about a guy who was committed to dying, it wasn't high enough to hang yourself. So he had to kind of tie his feet up crazy, insane. You just didn't. You didn't know. You did not see that coming. And so I got a call from the school that day because I was going to go into town anyway to see him. And then they found him. So
did the school offer you any support, any services?
They did. Everybody, it was weird. It was so surreal. Like everybody on campus looking at you, they want to talk to you. They want to, some kids just did. Others just like, everybody wanted to know if I got the automatic 4.0. That was a big thing.
I didn't even know.
Oh yeah, they would joke about, hey, could you kill yourself so I can get a 4.0?
Oh man.
And and he a lot of his close friends, he developed this kind of circle of people, and I think they either distrusted me or didn't like me, whatever. He just kind of probably talked a lot of shit about me because the car thing, and he insisted one of my friends had broken one of his speakers, just stupid roommate stuff. And so Matt Tibbles and I actually went to his funeral in the Springs. But before that, his parents came down, I think maybe the day after.
Yeah.
And I didn't know they were there or whatever, but they looked all over town for me, and they've got a hold of somebody who got a hold of me. This is pre-cell phones, and they said, we want to know what happened. And, at the time, I had for a long time struggled with how I dealt with this conversation I'm about to share with you. But then again, I was 18. I didn't know.
I was going to say, you were 18.
And I just remember this couple. They could be the most popular Republicans in America. They're just that beautiful, well-groomed, middle-aged couple. And they have this handsome kid who was gay as F. Fucking A. And it pisses me off. Like, we had a society that didn't make this... that didn't demonize it, that didn't make it awkward, then we could have said, Jason, move to San Francisco for a semester. I don't know, go find yourself. And the people from the Gay and Lesbian Bisexual Alliance, they were calling to help him. Mm-hmm. And if he would have just gone. So there's a couple crazy details here. So the parents, they get me at their friend's house, and they take me to the backyard. And I remember sitting on the grass, and I'm like tugging at the grass, almost as if interrogating it for answers. And I feel so small. I feel like a child again. And they're sitting kind of above me. They're sitting on this bench. And they're like, Jared, nobody really knows why this happened. And we think that you might. And I didn't hold back. And it's not that I wanted to injure them or anything, but I just told them the truth. I was like, he was gay.
Right.
He was gay, and he couldn't talk to you guys.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't buy it. They wouldn't take it as an answer. And that's fucking why he died, you fucks.
Yeah.
So we talked for a while in the backyard, and that was essentially the gist, is me just convincing him. They're like, why? How would that be true? We know he never had a boyfriend. I was like, no shit, because he lived in Colorado Springs, and you two look like you just were shit by the Bible.
Yeah.
Or focus on the family, and you wouldn't have understood that. He didn't know how to live in that.
Or accepted it.
He couldn't accept himself because he knew you wouldn't accept it. He didn't think anybody would accept him. But we would have. Everybody goes to school and they come out. They define things. You come out because of your sexuality, or you come out because you're a fucking mathematician. You define things. And that should be equal. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. So it was funny. They left, absconded with my soul, and they would send me a letter later not acknowledging anything about it, and with $100 check.
$100.
Yeah, because they knew that Jason and I had fought over gas and money. So they sent me a $100 check. But here's the craziest twist to the story.
As if that's really why he took his life, was over a fight about gas.
Right. And I think in the letter, I just remember being kind of hurt, because that was kind of the indication, is that, it's too bad that you guys couldn't have got along, kind of thing.
Not even taking accepted. Yeah. Okay.
And before I get to this crazy twist, which is probably going to make me cry, but I remember walking across the campus, and all these football players, because I played football, they came up to me and they're like, oh my God, he's dead. And you get a 4.0. And I remember as they're talking to me, there's this tree, and it's just been planted. And I'm thinking, that tree's going to be there in 20 years. There's going to be, look what you're doing to me, goddammit. That tree's going to be in 30 years.
Right.
But Jason won't. Like,
wow.
I'll be able to walk by that when I'm 50 or 60. I mean, if things go well. But Jason won't.
Yeah.
And this was a kind of an anti-suicide message to me that if you do that, things go on. Things go on. And one of those things could be you discovering who you are.
Exactly.
And accepting it.
And what a brutal, beautiful epiphany to have at 18, your freshman year of college, when the most horrible atrocity that you had probably had so far in your life had happened.
Yeah, and it was just like, it's such an example of like, if you make something, if you denigrate people, if you punch down because you don't have a policy otherwise, if you attack people just simply for who they are, if you don't make the conversation about acceptance and discovery, then you make it about being an outcast. You don't make it something that people can understand and navigate. Mm-hmm. He didn't see a path ahead. Mm-mm. You know, that night before he got high as shit on acid, and some people who saw him in the quad area, he was walking a friend's dog. They asked him how he was doing. He said he'd never been better. And I think he had resolved.
And I think for him that, you know, that kind of a choice was the better outcome than living the reality of his life. Mm-hmm. And
I know, because the reality wasn't a reality.
Right.
The reality was all these people painting negativity in their perceptions or their politically motivated BS.
And how does he love himself when he's not being shown or told he's loved?
Yeah, exactly.
And then these are the same people that would say that they were Christians, when I think that if that's the case, that you can't claim that. But I am proud of you for talking about this and think it's beautiful. And I remember you wrote about this years later, and I remember it got a lot of response. And, you know, I just think you have a beautiful heart, and I'm just glad that you were a part of his life while he was here. Well,
I'm going to tell you the twist. It's not really a twist, but it's such a beautiful punctuation point on a long and winding sentence. But I wasn't allowed back in the room immediately because it was a crime scene, I guess. Murder, I don't know. And that's my personal opinion on suicide is you're not killing yourself. You're killing someone you don't. You know, you're killing someone that you don't like. You know, it's like homicide in a way. Well, yeah, maybe you're killing a situation. You know, and of course you go with it. But anyway, I finally get back in the room to get some stuff, and the phone's ringing, and I pick it up, and it's a professor of his, and he's like, "Who is this?" And I said, "This is Jared." He goes, did you know Jason? And I said, yeah, he was my roommate. He's like, well, I'm just trying to get a hold of somebody because we this isn't crime material. Oh God. He said, we did an assignment about negative capability, writing as you're someone else. And he wrote as if you were a woman. And I wish I knew that professor's name, but he said it's the most beautiful paper I've ever read.
Wow.
I never saw it, but wow. And he talked for a while. He knew that I probably was slightly affected, which I didn't know I was so affected I'd be crying in my basement 30 years later. But
it's okay.
Listen, Jason, you live, you dick, and I got money from your parents. Anyway, they think I killed you probably, but whatever. You're gone, so it doesn't matter.
I think when you're a kid and you grow up with trauma and in life, when the trauma happens, you just continuously get re-triggered, and you have good days and you have days where you have tears, and regardless if you're male or female. But I love you, Iwi, and I think ending on that is a beautiful story, and nice job on episode number 2 from the Bang Bang Bunker.
Bang Bang Bunker.
This has been Jared Iwi's Hour. We'll be back for more